All right, guys, welcome back to the podcast. Another stream. This is the Rational Wrestling Mark YouTube channel, also known as the Rational Wrestling Viewer. And I'm going to be covering my 2023 WWE Draft predictions. Basically predicting on who's going where. Now, on this list, I don't have NXT included. I do not think NXT will be part of this year's draft. Simply because, in my opinion, there are some NXT stars that are due for a call up, but a good majority of them are not and should spend more time in NXT. Um, because I feel like on the main roster, you have too many guys that you're trying to push, you're trying to give more TV time to, you're trying to establish. And you don't want to bring up a Braun Breaker who is in the middle of a heel run right now in NXT. You don't want to have him go on Raw or SmackDown and have him get lost in the shuffle. We don't want certain NXT call-ups to be lost in the shuffle because the past history has showed us that certain NXT call-ups have gotten lost in the shuffle. And that's a problem. And we don't need wrestlers from NXT to be just lost, having no direction, having no purpose on the show. So, in my opinion, there should be no NXT call-ups. If I had to predict one, it would be Cameron Grimes, because I think he is overdue for a main roster call-up. Most definitely. So I'm going to give you guys my predictions on this year's draft. So for Monday Night Raw, I have drafted to Monday Night Raw from SmackDown Shinsuke Nakamura. Shinsuke Nakamura, I think, is going to Raw. He's been on SmackDown for his entire career in WWE, and it's time for him to move to Raw. And he's been on SmackDown long enough. There's really nothing for him to do on SmackDown. Maybe he does stay on SmackDown, but I think he's going to Raw. I think Shinsuke on Raw will be pretty interesting and intriguing. For SmackDown, I have Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn being drafted to SmackDown as your tag team champions. It just seems obvious that those two will be on SmackDown. I'm interested to see if they're going to split the Raw Tag Championships and the SmackDown Tag Belts. Just have the Raw Tag Belts on Raw, have the SmackDown Tag Belts on SmackDown. It depends if you have enough tag teams to do that. You may not have enough tag teams. Just enough tag teams to just have an undisputed tag team championship. We'll see what happens with that. But I have KO and Sami Zayn going to SmackDown. Solo Sikoa will be drafted to Raw. I think Solo is going to Raw. He's been booked very strong lately. He lost one match to Cody. He's won the majority of his matches. He's been the enforcer, the bloodline, booked very strong, unbeatable at times. For Solo Sikoa, who is basically the future, he'll have a stronger presence on the Raw roster. And he's definitely going to be more used in the future. And he's definitely going to be a bigger part of the show. So, he should be on the flagship show. And he's one of those, Vince guys that Vince would love to push. And we know that Raw is Vince's show. So of course he would want a guy like Solo on his show, on the flagship show, which is Raw, right? SmackDown, Seth Rollins will be drafted to SmackDown. That's my prediction. There is nothing for Seth Rollins to do on Raw. They just introduced a new world title. And I want to make a separate discussion about that because I'm very impressed by how the title looks. That belt design is top notch. Just sexy, very sexy. I'm predicting that Seth Rollins will go to SmackDown and that world title will be exclusive to SmackDown. And I think Seth will win it. That's my prediction. There's more to do with Seth Rollins on SmackDown. New opponents, fresh storylines, and that's what Seth Rollins needs right now. New matchups, fresh storylines. Yeah. And so by me saying that, this brings me to my next draft pick prediction, which is Roman Reigns going to Raw and being exclusive to Raw, the undisputed Universal Champion. Now, whatever brand Roman's on, he stays on that brand with the titles. So, logic would dictate that he keeps both the belts on Raw. He stays on Raw, the world title, exclusive to SmackDown. With Vince, trying to creep up in the creative process in WWE, him trying to make his way back. You cannot sit here and tell me that Vince does not want a Roman Reigns on Monday Night Raw. Because, Raw is that flagship show, the number one show for Vince. He seems to be doing the most damage to is Raw. So, of course, he would want Roman on Raw, right? And it's also time for Roman to switch brands. He's been on SmackDown long enough. For the past 4 years, he's been on SmackDown. And I think, Roman Reigns will be fresh on Raw after a long time. My next draft pick prediction is Bianca Belair going to SmackDown. Now, if you watched my Io Sky should beat Bianca Belair stream/video, you know that I predicted that Io Sky should beat Bianca Belair for the Women's Championship, right? And then this would lead to Bianca Belair getting drafted to SmackDown. Now, if she were to get drafted to SmackDown this Friday night, it would be a clear indication that Io Sky is going to beat Bianca Belair at Backlash. So I got Bianca. I got Bianca going to SmackDown just because she's done everything as champion on Raw. It's time for a change. She needs a freshen up in her character, most definitely. Becky Lynch, I predict that she's going to stay on Raw. Obviously, she's feuding with Trish, so that's going to be mainly a Raw feud. So I have no doubts in my mind she'll stay on Raw. Obviously, on SmackDown, I'm going to, Rhea Ripley. She's going to be staying on SmackDown because she's a SmackDown Women's Champion. So I have her as the SmackDown pick. Going to Raw, I have Shotzi. Yes, Shotzi Blackheart. Um, I predict she's going to Raw. And for SmackDown, I have Piper Niven. And for Monday Night Raw, I also have going to Raw, Karrion Kross and Scarlett. Obviously, they've been teasing a Shinsuke and Karrion Kross feud for past 2 weeks. So Shinsuke is going to Raw. Karrion Kross will follow him right to Monday Night Raw. My next prediction is Gunther will stay on SmackDown as Intercontinental Champion. I don't see him going anywhere anytime soon. Um, I'm predicting that Braun Strowman is going to Raw and thus breaking up the tag team of him and Ricochet, because that tag team is just pointless. There's no real purpose for that tag team. And I think it's time for Braun Strowman to, get back to being the unbeatable monster again that he used to be. And I think they're ready to kind of, give him a strong push again, perhaps. SmackDown, I have Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez, um, women tag champs. They'll stay on SmackDown, but at the end of the day, I don't think it actually matters, because for Raw and SmackDown, you don't have enough female tag teams to even do women's tag team championships, right? To have a division. So I don't think it actually matters if, where Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez go, because they can just defend those belts on Raw and SmackDown. Because you just don't have enough female tag teams to create a division for each brand on Raw and SmackDown. It's just not going to happen. Completely pointless. So, yeah, they'll stay on SmackDown, I guess. Cody Rhodes will be on Raw. The American Nightmare will stay on Raw. And obviously to finish his story by beating Roman Reigns for those titles. And that was one of the reasons, that was like the main reason why I predicted that Roman will be on Raw. To go to Raw, and Cody will stay on Raw so that they, can continue, their feud and finish it. And that will play into Cody Rhodes still having a chance to face Roman in the future. SmackDown, I'm going with Dominic Mysterio as my next prediction for the draft. He'll be on SmackDown. Dominic, he's been on a roll, man, as a heel lately. He's just been killing it. I'm predicting that he'll probably break away from the Judgment Day and start his own faction with the LWO, Latino World Order. They'll kick Rey Mysterio out, and, he'll join with, Santos Escobar and his group, all along with Damian Priest, and create the LWO 2.0. And he'll be the leader of that faction, I'm predicting. And for Raw, I'm going to say Finn Balor. Finn Balor will be staying on Raw. And SmackDown, I'm going with Rey Mysterio. He's going to be staying on SmackDown, obviously, to continue feuding with his son. And for Raw, I'm going with Madcap Moss. I think it's time for him to get a switch to a different brand. Maybe that'll give him some momentum. If he gets enough TV time and some character development, I guess he'll, thrive somewhat in the mid card. For SmackDown, I have Damian Priest to stay on SmackDown, obviously to, still continue the feud with Rey Mysterio, and, the entire Judgment Day will be on SmackDown except Finn Balor, which I predict that because Finn Balor continues to lose, they will kick him out of the group. I think once the draft is finalized, they'll kick Finn Balor out the group. All members except Finn will be drafted to SmackDown, and that's when they'll kick him out, and he'll be on his own. Next, I have Otis going to Raw. Well, staying on Raw. SmackDown, Chad Gable. So with that, Alpha Academy would break up. They would be split up. And I think it's time to give Chad Gable and Otis a singles run, especially Chad Gable. Give him, be his own act on SmackDown and have him be, part of the mid-card. I would love for him to, fight Gunther at some point for the Intercontinental Championship if he were to get drafted to SmackDown. Austin Theory, he's going to be staying on Raw. I'm predicting he will continue to stay on Raw as United States Champion. Next, I got Dexter Lumis going to SmackDown. Now, we haven't seen Dexter Lumis in a minute. He hasn't been given any TV time, but I think him going to SmackDown would be beneficial to him, as he'll probably get some TV time than he did on Raw. For Raw, I'm going to go with Bobby Lashley, staying on Monday Night Raw. I don't see him making the switch. Street Profits are going to SmackDown, I predict. Ronda Rousey will be going to Raw. That'll be a big switch for Ronda. I think that would definitely spice things up in the Raw women's division if you got a Ronda Rousey on that show. SmackDown, I have Mia Yim going to the blue brand. Natalya, I predict she's going to go to Raw. Matt Riddle, I'm predicting he's going to SmackDown. And Tegan Nox, I think she's going to Raw. The Latino World Order, they're going to be going to SmackDown and staying on SmackDown. The Viking Raiders with Valhalla, whatever her name is, they're going to Raw. Johnny Gargano will follow Dexter Lumis to SmackDown, I'm predicting. Shayna Baszler, she is going to Raw with Ronda Rousey. And I think I forgot one more pick. I wrote it down somewhere. Oh, yeah, the Usos will be going to Raw. So the entire bloodline, I predict, will be on the Raw brand. And that's just, and I believe that eventually they will break up. I don't think the draft will separate them, but they should be on the Raw brand. Just because. So yeah, that's my draft predictions for 2023. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Let me know who you think is going where. Would you agree with my draft predictions? And do you think they're accurate? This is just my predictions. Like I said, on SmackDown, it can be completely different how they do it. We'll see who goes where. We might get some surprise NXT draft picks, which me personally, I'm not expecting to, but we'll see what happens. So that being said, thank you guys for tuning in into the stream. Make sure to hit that like button. It's free. Subscribe if you are new. And yes, this is the Rational Wrestling Mark, also known as the Rational Wrestling Viewer. And I am out. Peace.